I still have to say this, in writing these revelations, you must mention my name. You must quote my name. With the other demons too, you must always specify who has spoken. You must do it. It is not for nothing that we tell you who is speaking. Why do you think we do it? She allows us to say our names, who is speaking, and then she also wished you to note who has spoken. Concerning the important matters above all, she wants it to be known which demon she chose, which one had to speak. Just because I am well known, it is essential that my name be mentioned. The fundamental virtue of humility. Veroba has spoken previously on January 12, 1976, of the warning in the catastrophe. He said then that should also be put in the little book. He also told why the warning has not come yet, and why it was paradoxical to pray. You men, you are worth nothing. You are nothing, and you will be nothing. You are asses who can be told the same thing over and over again. Have you the brains of a fly, or maybe you have a sieve for a brain? If he up there did not exist, all your bones would disintegrate. It is he alone who supports your carcass every second. Without that, you would be rags and scraps. This is why we, down there below, cannot understand how teachers, doctors and I don't know how many more, have such insane presumption. How can they have such great presumption, although they are only dirt which will be eaten up by worms? On the subject of this presumption, she wants this to be said in addition. She deems it entirely out of place on the part of these people to exalt themselves so inordinately. They are an abomination in the eyes of the Lord. She considers it entirely misplaced since she comported herself with such perfect humility. She would have had cause to carry her crown high and to flourish her scepter. She would have had every reason to. Did she ever do it? At all events, not on earth. Consequently, she has been exalted in accordance with the Scriptures, as Jesus said, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and everyone who humbles himself will be exalted. This means that everyone who exalts himself will, in the end, be humbled in an extraordinary way, not just by 1 degree, but by innumerable degrees. Do you understand what we mean? He who exalts himself will not be humbled by the same amount, but 1,000,000 times more. And still more than that. But he who humbles himself, however high his place may be, we are learned, we know that, according to the parable of the banquet where Jesus said, he who puts himself in the last place will perhaps be placed in the first place by the master of the banquet. I mean that those who humble themselves thus will not be exalted by the same amount. They will be placed 1,000,000 times higher than they were, and that applies for all eternity. I have to say that it is a paradox and a monumental act of stupidity to exalt oneself on earth. I have to say it because it is an abomination for the Lord. If men knew what they are doing, they would be horrified with themselves. If she had not always put herself in the last place, even below Saint Joseph, who however was highly aware of her dignity, and if she had not been so humble, she would never, never ever, have had today, this power over the church and over the world. You would not have in her this mother, who does everything for you and who obtains for you the inexpressible graces which she can now obtain, if she had not first given you the example. She practiced humility, in every part of every virtue, right to the last degrees of heroism. If she had not practiced these virtues, and especially this cursed virtue of humility, we could have dragged ourselves close to her in spite of everything. That would have enabled us to succeed once more, in spite of everything the devil it would. It is the same for men. It is as clear as day, when a man is not humble, all the vices follow. We have a hold over a man as soon as his own wisdom, call it what you like, goes to his head. Man has not been wise for a long time. For a long time his brain has been that of a gnat. Even if he believes himself to be wise, and then exalts himself only a little bit, he falls immediately. In the mind of that woman up there, he points upward. But I don't want to say that. I know it well enough because that is what happened to us. How we have fallen, thousands and thousands of times, confound it, and then more again. That is why you priests must speak from the pulpit about the original sin, about pride. You should do your utmost to promote the virtue of humility. Speak about the saints who have practiced this divine perfection to an eminent degree, for example, Catherine Emmerich. Of thousands of other saints, of Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus. Preach about Saint John Marie Vianney. He lived on potatoes for 15 days at a time. He used to eat sour, moldy potatoes. He did not even want to get into the bed that had been installed for him. He found that it was too comfortable for him. We do not have so much power over these people who have such a poor opinion of themselves that they don't even wish to sleep in a good bed, and who do not make this known to other people by saying such things as, "See, I am not using the good bed. I am good. I am using the uncomfortable bed." They hide it from men. John Marie Vianney always kept it secret that he was not eating normally. He had true humility. Catherine Emmerich was the same. She did not want to show how ill she was, nor what she carried on her body. It was only when people came and said, "But she is in a pitiable state, something must be done," that she allowed them to move her because it was absolutely necessary, and still she wanted to remain in extreme poverty. She used to lie half done for, framed in a wretched bed. She always wanted to live a retiring life. That is why the birds used to come from the skies to perch on her shoulders. The saints receive so many favors. The saints in general, hot above all, the humble saints. They are very much in favor up there. They mount rapidly towards heaven, while the others drag themselves laboriously, step by step, along the hard road which is leading them there. Before all else, the virtue of humility must be preached again from the pulpit. All the others come only after that one. Then comes the virtue of purity, most fitting for our times. Then truth and all the others. You must say where that leads and give examples. First and foremost, the vice of pride must be denounced. You must say that the virtue of humility must be written in very large letters. Then, of course, comes anger, theft and all the rest. You must always endeavor to quote comparisons and examples, living, proved and verified in the lives of the saints. Leave me alone. What you're doing is good, it is good, but you ought to do it with more insistence. You must point out more insistently the devastating effect of sin. Particularly during this season of Lent, put the accent on the gravity of sin, which surpasses all imagination. Make known the consequences of sin with great clarity. It is much more frightful than you can depict it. It is sin you must depict, and you must try to explain very clearly what its consequences are. You have now understood everything, but the other priests must do as much, because it is worthless coming just from you. If they do not do it, although they are under an obligation to do so, they are inflicting great harm, and they are depriving both themselves and those depending on them, of many graces. All their faithful suffer as a result, and they did not receive the graces they should receive. About these virtues I must say again that this filthy old book, The Imitation of Jesus Christ, by Thomas à Kempis, which we fear so much, down there below. This satanic old book should be disseminated and it must be read. It should not be missing from any Catholic household, and it should be read. The best thing would be to read a chapter of it every evening, and strive to conform your life to it. In so far as possible, you should read the old, non-abridged edition of The Imitation of Jesus Christ. In the recent versions ways have already been found of changing some things. But they are changing things all the time. So you must search out the old copies. If there are not enough of them, it should be republished. In any case, you yourselves should preach on the imitation of Christ's use and develop the themes you find therein, and inculcate them into the hearts of the faithful. The imitation of Christ is pure wheat, it is not chaff. It comes from heaven. Heaven wants and recommends it, and would this not be because it places the cross of Christ in front of one in a concrete way, and it tells how the cross of Christ can be imitated. In that way, man learns how Christ suffered, and how he must do the same himself if he wants to advance one step, or even 1 inch, in the following of Christ. And even with that, he is still a long way from being a saint, and he must continue to have a very small opinion of himself. That is what you absolutely must say. There are thousands of people, one could say millions, who believe that they are good because they have done this or done that. But that is far from enough. They will be good only when they consider themselves to be not yet good, and think they have done too little and that they could do a lot more about it. They will be good only when they consider themselves to be very unimportant, and do everything that they can for Christ. Amen.